Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to make a paper marigold. It has been fall for over a month already. I don't like to experience the seasons a little too soon. You know, I was thinking that I should make Christmas videos already, but it is not even November. I am not ready for Christmas flowers just yet. So my idea is that I'm going to do maybe 2 weeks of flower videos around fall. Then I'll let myself experience Christmas, just not too soon. I have recently been in different craft stores and they already have Christmas stuff. They already have Christmas music. It is way too soon. So let's enjoy fall for a little bit, and I hope you enjoy some of the flowers I'll be presenting in the next 2 weeks. So the one that I want to make today is a marigold, and I want to kind of go through the process of why I have or how I came to this particular marigold flower. I looked at a lot of pictures online, and there are different types of marigolds, and they can be really intricate or busy looking, and it can be a little difficult to replicate that with regular cardstock. So in the end, what I decided to do was get a flower that still looked very full and poofy. However, I wanted it to be something that can be made very quickly. Although there's a lot of petals, it's fairly easy to make if you just set your machine to cut these flowers, petals, and then you can just whip them up really quick, throw them up for Thanksgiving, enjoy them for your fall decor, and then we can move on to Christmas after. So with this marigold, I have this petal shape here, and this is just one that I created really quickly, and I chose this between a number of different petals that I wanted to use for marigold. And so the theme with this marigold is I wanted it to be quick. I wanted it to resemble a marigold. However, I didn't want to take all that time making one specific flower. So I think this is a nice way to get that marigold look without putting so much work into it. I know that we're all busy at the end of the year for Thanksgiving and then Christmas and then New Year's, and so that was the approach that I took. I named it template 23 because all the other templates are named up to 22, so this is just the next one in the sequence. And I'm just going to call it template 23 in parentheses marigold. Okay, so I'm going to go kind of walk through this process of how I'm making it, and hopefully I'll share some tips that you can take if you're making your own marigold and you want to use a different shape, whatever you like. I just went with this one because I thought this one worked best. So I'm going to go through the process hopefully quickly. What I have here is a 7-inch wide circle. Now you can use an octagon, so each petal layer will have 8 petals per layer. You can use a circle, you can use an octagon, whatever works best for you. I wanted to use a circle. And with this petal template here, I am using 3.5 inches wide petals. I am using 4 sets of 8 petals each, and then I have one set that's 3 inches wide, and I have 12 petals. This will be towards the center. And for the very, very center piece, I have this 4-inch wide piece cut from an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, the fringe cut that I usually call. This is a 1/8 inch cut in between, so each little piece here in between is an 1/8 of an inch spacing. So I do have a video on how I make this, same file that I use always. Again, the idea is that I wanted to make something quick. For the paper, what I'm using here is this piece of paper here. I'm using 12 by 12 cardstock because Joann's had a great sale. This one is called Gold or Oro by Coordinations and American Crafts, so I picked this up. I used in total here 4 pieces, I used 5 pieces of this piece of paper, so 5 of these for the petals, and this 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper I just used half. And this one was from a paper pack, can't remember which, but I know it's from Michael's, so they're similar. This one's just a little bit richer in color, so I thought that was a great goldenrod, warm orange color for the marigold. Okay, let's get started. So I have 4 groups here. Although they're the same petal, the reason why I have them in different groups is because I'm going to cut them differently. I'm going to prep them a little different to get that look that I want. For these paper flowers, you want a pair of scissors, You can have something to curl. I'm not going to curl, and that's the reason why I think this takes a little bit less time. You can have a bone folder. I'll add in the name because it sounds funny. Bone folder if you want to curl the petals. And then obviously you'll have a glue gun. I just like to use these mini size ones. And then glue sticks. So I'll have these here off to the side. Okay, so my first layer of petals, I wanted them to sit very low along the flower. So when I want flower petals to sit lower, what I need to do is I need to cut a longer cut here. That way the flower lays lower, because when you, when you cut the petal lower, or when you want to cut the petal so that it sits lower, you want to make a longer cut. So you see there, the cut is about 2 inches. And when I add the glue and glue together the flaps, now that flower petal sits a lot lower. Now if I were to make a shorter cut and I glued the pieces, then it would sit taller or more upright. And so I want the outer layer petals to sit lower because I want them to have that sort of full look. And so these petals I will cut with a longer slit in the middle. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now when you cut that slit, you can always, if you make a mistake and you think you cut too much but you didn't want it to sit so low, you can always force the petal to sit more upright by sort of crisscrossing the petal like this. I'm not sure if that's shown. So rather than more relaxed petal, where these two flaps just slightly overlap each other, you'll have a relaxed petal. But if you think, oh no, I cut it too much and I ruined the petal, what you can do to salvage is just sort of crisscross, give it that rainbow, or give it that look that looks like that ribbon that's crossed. And so that'll raise the petal up a little bit. Maybe you can salvage it and put that in the center if you feel like you've accidentally cut too much. But again, yes, I wanted that lower, relaxed petal. So I'm going to glue these petals here first, and then I'm going to do this layer by layer. Okay, so with a circle, sometimes it's hard to use a circle because there's no guide. What you can use is a circle in the middle to trace where you want all your petals to sit. Or you can use that octagon. What I like to do is I'll add glue and glue each layer, not in a circular motion, but more like this, where I think of it as a clock where it's 12 and 6. And then I will do the 3 and the 9. Or I hope I'm explaining that right. Like in the position where 9 o'clock would be. And then I know I want to evenly space these petals here. So I want that sitting right in between. So now these petals are sitting more relaxed. Now the next layer, I want to fill in this space here. So I want that similar cut, about 2 inches. And so again, you just repeat the process, and when you glue the petal, I want it to sit sort of at the same layer as the previous one. So I want it to sit in between these petals, but I don't want to glue it closer towards the center. I want it to be sort of on the same, if you imagined a circle here, sort of the same place as the previous layer of petals. So I'll go ahead and glue those really quickly. I'll fast forward this since it's just a repetitive step.
Try to act like they all taught me, but nothing makes sense anymore.
So it's a little off with how I glued the petals, and I kind of wanted that look because it's a little more realistic, that doesn't look so uniform and even. So some petals are closer towards the center, other ones are further back. That's okay. Now my next layer of petals, I want them to sit closer towards the center. I don't want them to be so relaxed in terms of how it sits. So now I want that petal to stand a little more upright. I want this cut to be shorter. I don't want it to be as long. I would say that maybe this is 1.5 inches, like a little bit 1.5 inches, or 1 3/4 inches, just a little bit less. And then when I glue them towards the flower, I want to make sure that they do sit upright. So you can tell that when I put it towards here, it is sort of lifted, and that's the look that I'm going for. I want a more lifted look in this petal layer. Now with the last set of the 3.5 inch wide petals, I want the same sort of lift in the petals. However, I want it to be even, I want it to sit even taller this time, or not as relaxed. So I will cut it just a little bit less than before. And I sort of eyeball it. Honestly, if there's a little bit of a variation in how your petals are cut, I think that makes the petal look a little, or I think that makes the flower look a little bit more realistic too, so that they're not all uniform and even. So again, now it sits like taller. It's hard to give that sort of dimension on camera when I'm shooting straight above, but it is sitting, as you can see, it looks like it's more perpendicular versus more relaxed, like compared to this petal here, or this here, it sits taller. So that is the look that I'm going for. And as it gets closer and closer towards the center, I'm going to overlap these petals a lot more than I did before. So before they hardly overlapped, there was a nice spacing for each petal. Now I want to sort of make sure that they are actually sitting very close together. And that gives it sort of fullness in the center. So as you can tell, it's getting fuller, and it looks a little off. Like, it sounds funny. I'm sorry, it looks a little off only because I wanted it that way. I could have gone a little bit slower and made sure they were evenly spaced in the middle, but I think that gives it a little more of a look that I want when I'm making a flower with just cardstock. So you can tell that these petals here are a little more relaxed than the ones here. And so with this last layer of petals, I'm going to add in as many as I think I'll need. And so I cut out more than I thought I would use for the specific purpose that if I didn't like the look of it being too full, then I don't have to add as many as I think I need. So here the petal would sit again a little bit taller, but because it's lower, you don't have to worry so much about how it looks. You could just add them in as you see fit. Now you could actually keep going with the same size petal as before. I just thought that this would help the flower look more realistic if I used smaller petals in the center. But if you use taller petals, that might make it look fuller as like a round dome. And so I'm just going to stuff. And so I'm just going to stuff it as much as I can in the center.
That I wouldn't grow wiser for each day. Am I the only one lost in translation, where nothing makes sense anymore?
Okay, so for these last petals, I can just add them in whatever arrangement that I'd like. So I'm just gluing them in like this. So I just did 3 sort of in the center like that. Clearly not in any sort of manner. And so you can see that there's a lot of bulk of flower petals here, and that's what I want. I want the outside to feel more relaxed, and then it gives me sort of a full looking flower by adding more in the center. So originally I made this flower using a center in the middle, but now I'm kind of debating what I want to do given that the petals look the way that they do. Now what you can do is just use a smaller petal, fill it up the same way, and just leave it at that. You can use sort of a fringe center, as I say, in the middle if you like, and so I would think that this is up to personal preference. Okay, so took a little break and cut out more petals and other options that you could do. So number 1, you could just add in the center like this. Probably the easiest thing. It's done this on my channel. It's quick, easy, boom. Now another thing that you can do is just add more petals. And so what I've done is I've cut out on my Slit machine the next iteration in the petal sizes. So these are 2.5-inch wide petals. So just to remind you, this is 3.5 in most of these layers. The smaller one in the center is 3 inches wide, and then this would be 2.5 inches wide. I tend to just go in 1/2-inch sizing by width, just to make it easier, and it's nice and systematically sized. So that's why I do that. But again, then what you could do is just cut these petals and prepare them as you would normally prepare anything else, and just keep adding those in. Now I'm not going to actually glue them, only because this is like an option that you can do, but I'll add them in so that you can see what it would look like. Whoops. So I cut out 8 pieces, but this may take more or less depending on what you like. Now So I'm gonna arrange that better. I'm sort of winging this, as they say, because I wasn't thinking like this beforehand. Now what you can also do is just sort of curl this petal. So that as it sits in here, it can start covering the center. So I don't think I'm actually doing this very well. This is why I like to plan my videos, because otherwise when I try to wing it, it never usually works. So I'm going to try to do this in a way where I can take it out later, but you can add in the petals just like you did before. I would cut them so that they sit even taller up than your other petals. Okay, so the idea is that it's getting smaller and smaller in there, and then you can have certain petals that are curled so that they sort of cover up that center in the middle. So not a very good explanation. I actually don't prefer this. I like having a center like this, but this is something that you can do, and I am avoiding gluing this because I don't want my flower to look like that, but that's an option. Hopefully I'm explaining it right. I'm going to take these out, but the idea is that you could just add more and more petals of a smaller size, and then as you get towards the center, just curl the petals, tips of the petals inward so that they sort of form a piece that covers that center. Now when you get down to this also, you could just make a small little flower center in the middle and then just have that there. And then second option is, rather than having this center with these sort of looped pieces, I guess, you could just take the same fringe cut, as I say. Just cut it down like that, and then I'm going to give it a slight curl, just very slightly. And what I'll do is I'll add in different ways or directions to curl it so that it doesn't just look like a uniform flower center when I roll it. And that way it could just look like a more natural piece in the center. So I didn't glue that because I wanted to see. I think what I said, and I'm laughing because I'm not good at winging it. What I would do actually is just, when I made these little sort of curls at the tips, I think that I should have done it after I rolled it. It's better. And I want this to actually be a shorter flower center. It's too big for what I personally would prefer. So I'm going to snip that again and then roll it. And that'll be fun to clean up later, but it's okay. So just roll it together. then now it's easier to sort of curl it however you like. So I'm first going to sort of bend some of these pieces back. And then give it that curl. And then it gets sit like that in the center. So not a huge difference, although this would be easier to cut yourself. You don't need a cutting machine for this. You just take a strip of paper and then just give it some cuts. Now, if you want to make a center like that and you're not already frustrated with me on my poor planning, what you can do to make that center if you don't have a cutting machine is that good old-fashioned route with the scissors. And then you just need to cut those little strips that fringe in this paper. You can also use the scissor with the multiple blades, and that should give you the same output to make this center in the middle. Now personally, I prefer these types of centers like this over more petals in the middle, but if you have a cutting machine, this will probably be the easiest option. So however you'd like to finish it, and let me clean up this just a little bit. So depending on how much detail you want to put in this flower, you can add more petals in center, smaller petals like here. You can add just the regular good old trusty flower center that I normally show on my channel, or you could just do something quick like this, much smaller. You can also just add those petals that are curled towards the center, like this. Just sort of cover up a little bit of that center and give you something like that. Now, obviously I didn't glue it down, and that's why it looks a little off. So, I mean, I think I'm just trying to present options here. Okay, so that is my tutorial on this marigold flower, my take on it anyway. Let me know if you have any questions below, or if you have any requests for any other flowers in fall. I hope to do a few more videos before I again move on to Christmas. Let me know down below if you have any questions or comments, and let me know if you've already decorated for Christmas or if you're still on fall. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.